This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jespersen.
Grateful to have you here with us, Real Talkers. You know, the benefit of a 40-minute speech, 48 minutes as a matter of fact, by a major party leader in Canada, in this case Pierre Poilievre, is it gives us an opportunity, a talk show, an audience like this, to really dig into the content, to read into what the signals are, in this case from the Conservative Party of Canada, and of course not just to its members, sure, its members most particularly, but to 40 million Canadians or so, or at least those with a vote, those soon to be able to vote on what governance under a Conservative majority might look like. Pierre Poilievre essentially over the weekend making his argument for Canada's Conservatives heading into, or a month into, a year where many are expecting Canadians could be heading back to the polls. Mark Carney, the Liberal Prime Minister of Canada, wants that majority. It would change everything. They're oh so close. But prognosticators, of course, are divided. They're torn on whether or not the Liberals will be able to recruit any more Conservative floor crossers. If that is not the case, if Carney finds himself stuck in a minority government position, polling the way that he is, and we talked about that in our most recent episode with Philippe Fournier from 338 Canada, the poll analyst who joined Supriya Dwivedi and myself, if the Liberal Brain Trust believes that Canadians are at a point where Conservative voters in past or undecided voters might give the Liberals a mandate, then you better believe that they're going to go for it. So Pierre Poilievre is in campaign mode. For that matter, the federal NDP are gearing up, trying to get a leader dialed in so they can snap into campaign mode as well. We're seeing it across the country. In this episode of the show, following our conversation with Mr. Fournier, who was down in Calgary attending Conservative convention as an objective observer, we're going to hear from a Conservative voice today on the plan that Pierre Poilievre proposed. Sure, he said that the Conservatives will do what they can to help the federal government deal with the United States. Well, what does that actually mean? Let's dial into the bigger vision. Pierre Poilievre says that Conservatives would be better at getting houses built, that Conservatives would be better at protecting Canada's Arctic sovereignty. Just a couple off the top of my head. We'll dig into it. We'll have a look at what Real Talkers have to say in our live chat powered by Park Power. And of course, for those of you that are checking out the podcast later or watching this later on YouTube, we invite you to leave a comment or, of course, send us an email to talk@ryanjespersen.com so we can keep these conversations continuing. That's what this show is all about. Colin Aitchison in just a moment. We want to let you know this episode is happening with the presenting sponsorship at RapidX Financial. You know, the crypto world moves fast, but your trust in an exchange shouldn't, couldn't, can't be a gamble. And that's why we're proud to partner with the team at RapidX Financial. They're a made-in-Alberta solution backed by the exact same experts behind those rapid cash ATMs that you've seen across Canada for the last 25 years or so. I just saw one the other day in the hallway at the Saville Center at the University of Alberta. RapidX has been around for ages, a real Alberta success story, and now they're making it easy to get started with crypto with 3 different ways to trade. You can use one of their crypto ATMs. You can employ their over-the-counter desk for discrete, larger value trades, or if you could use a little more advice, a little more guidance from a real live human. And of course, there's their secure online platform at rapidxfinancial.com. And because you're hearing about this on the show, there's a special offer for Real Talkers. If you go to the website, rapidxfinancial.com, use the promo code Ryan50, all one word, Ryan50. They're going to knock 50% off fees on all your online Interac e-transfer trades. Fantastic incentive. It's secure, it's FinTrack registered, and critically, it's non-custodial, meaning that you always control your keys. That's a huge deal. That's rapidxfinancial.com, the promo code Ryan50 for Real Talk and Real Bitcoin. Strategist and former senior political staffer Colin Aitchison in just a moment as we continue our look at the policies, at the hypotheticals, the plan that Pierre Poilievre pitched to several thousand Conservative members at the party's annual convention in Calgary. Here's a quick snippet to set it all up.
We must cap immigration at numbers we can integrate into our jobs, housing, healthcare, and Canadian way of life. We will deport criminals, end fraud, end abuse and handouts to phony refugees. We will no longer allow foreign conflicts to spill onto our streets.
All right, the Conservative members in attendance love that. For those of you listening on the podcast, that final comment there, gleaning a standing ovation for Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. As we welcome back to the show a veteran Conservative strategist, former senior staffer to Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. He's got a ton of experience in government comms and political operations, and now working as an advisor and as a valued member of the team at Enterprise Canada. Colin Aitchison, it's nice to see you. Thanks for making time for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan.
You were in attendance there over the weekend. Anecdotally, off the top, what did you see when you walked in? What were you expecting to see?
Yeah, it was very energetic. I mean, I've heard about the growth of the federal Conservative Party. Obviously, I've been a provincial staffer for a while and involved in provincial movements in Ontario and in Alberta. But I was actually very surprised at the youth turnout. I had heard that Pierre had grown the party, heard anecdotes, seen it online. Pierre himself has talked about that it's no longer the party of white-haired men. But the energy in the room from young people, from Newfoundland to Victoria and everything between is actually the storyline that really surprised me. I mean, after losing an election, after growing the party, it's very easy to kind of get disenfranchised with the political movement you may have just joined. But seeing that kind of energy, seeing that movement, and seeing youth involved in every single level of the debate was the one key takeaway I had that really surprised me.
Well, I didn't pull the clip on it, but Poilievre cracks a joke relatively early in his speech, and he says he remembers that Conservative conventions in past mimicked the Great White North in demographic. He says there was a lot of white hair in the room. He was quick to correct or at least make sure that he didn't offend the longtime Conservative members. But he was quite right, I think, to point out that any healthy political movement needs a youth wave and acknowledge that, of course, the challenge would be to get young members and those that are engaged at a young age to actually turn out and vote. In your estimation, based on what you're watching, what do you think it is that's drawing young people to the party?
Yeah, I think it's the focus on the issues that affect everyone day to day. I mean, we heard it in the speech. You highlighted some of them there in that clip before. But I mean, at the end of the day, people get involved in politics because their lives, they feel that a political movement can make their lives better, the country better. And I think a lot of young people, I mean, I'm only in my early 30s, like affordability, the ability to buy a home, the ability to kind of get a job that really resonates and is able to kind of build a career. Those are things that people are very concerned about these days. I mean, it's no longer guaranteed that you go to university and you get a well-paying job and you're able to work at the same company for the next 25 to 40 years. You might have to jump around if you can even get into the labor markets. And I think that the message that Pierre spoke, and I'm sure we'll unpack it a bit more, but like his framing around those issues that he's talked about since he became leader is one of the things that drew those people to the party. And then I think his pivot this weekend to more of a message of hope around those issues and the fact that Canadians have gone through hard times, we've gotten through it, and under a Conservative government, we can do it again, is probably what's keeping those youth here.
It's you've got a lot of experience in government communications and what a leader would choose to highlight, what a leader may gloss over or ignore in a speech, and what that all means. This is certainly no different. If you look at all the commentators, since Mr. Poilievre delivered that speech, since we saw 87.4 as a score on a leadership review, which I have to imagine he's happy about, people are talking about what he did get to and what he didn't. Saying he didn't spend a ton of time talking about the United States and Donald Trump. I thought that he did touch on the United States several times. He may not have hammered away at Donald Trump like some may have liked. He didn't mention Mark Carney, for that matter, a ton. He talked about how the Liberals have had about a year to figure things out, and the average person may not have seen their life change that much. But what struck you as interesting, either what he did focus on or what he essentially omitted?
Yeah, I think on the Mark Carney thing, I think that was carefully crafted. If you look at polling, Mark Carney as an individual leader is pretty popular right now, but the Liberal brand versus the Conservative brand is a bit of a different kind of polling level. So I think focusing on the Liberal Party, the historic track record of them. I mean, even Danielle Smith came in and she focused on Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau, and obviously she's working with Mark Carney on the MOU, so she can't really get too adversarial right now. But I think it was intentional. I think what really stood out to me, and Ian Brody actually mentioned this, so I do want to give him a bit of credit because I'm going to copy some of his analysis since he beat me to it about talking to it, but is how Poilievre was kind of able to talk about the Trump-US situation without actually like focusing on Trump as a threat. Instead of focusing on the foreign agenda, he tied it all back to the domestic agenda about how Canada succeeds when ordinary people rise to extraordinary change and challenges, which is what we're kind of facing right now. Progress doesn't come from governments kind of dictating on the international stage or even domestically on what's going. Like we can kind of build our own futures. And the subtext of his speech on a lot of those issues when it came back to the hope was resilience, not fear. And I think like one of the things that the federal government and Mark Carney, to his credit, has been doing really well has been painting Donald Trump as this guy and he's reinventing everything on the world stage. He's kind of flipped the world order on its head. And it is kind of a message of fear because I think a lot of people are afraid of what Donald Trump's going to do day to day, whether you're watching the stock markets and he tweets and your stocks collapse a bit, or whether you're worried what he's going to do about Greenland or even Canada and the 51st state. Whereas Pierre took that kind of sense of fear and turned it into a message of hope and resilience on the domestic level and kind of pivoted to here's what we can do to make your life better here at home, regardless of what's going on internationally. And I think it was an important message, and I think it was a unique take, and it's a way we'll probably see him continue to kind of unpack that Trump dynamic moving forward.
Colin Aitchison, our guest in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. I'm dipping into the live chat, and I see as soon as we played that clip, I'm assuming that these are not conservative voters. Matthew says, ooh, phony refugees. He says that's gross language. Denise says, what's the Canadian way of life? White? Noob Try Again says, dog whistle, anybody? Meta Modern says, immigrants bad. This isn't new. In light of what's happening with ICE in the United States and the supercharged situation in Minnesota and California and elsewhere, does Pierre Poilievre take a risk in talking about things like deporting people or just the searing power of that word these days, talking about, quote, phony refugees? Not to suggest Canada doesn't have challenges with immigration. Does he have to tread that lightly?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to look at the audience that he's talking to, right? I think as much as it was broadcast on a global stage, this was very gearly targeted towards the Conservative base. And Conservative Party of Canada is a very broad base. Like provincial politics, it's normally broad. It's even broader federally. Like what matters to someone in Okotoks, Alberta, very different to someone in St. John's, Newfoundland, and everywhere in between, right? So I think in terms of the audience, the rhetoric might have been up there. He does have to serve up some red meat, but he did also talk in his speech about how this country was built by immigrants and how the systems that we've kind of created have created an unstable level of immigration, how our social services are struggling because we're not able to keep up with population growth and population demand and everything else, and that the system overall needs a change. Yes, I think there is a risk of going too far on some of those issues, especially with the broader context, especially going down to the United States. But I also think we have to take a look at the audience he was speaking to, and that was in advance of his leadership review. That was a very diverse conservative base who might have stronger opinions than the average Canadian. And party conventions, even like the prime minister, if he's at the Liberal convention, is going to say a much different speech at the Liberal convention than he's going to in the prime minister's office.
Yeah, of course. What are your thoughts? I keep seeing comments pop up, and we saw it yesterday as well. People talking in particular about the result of the leadership vote, which was obviously a strong result for Pierre Poilievre. If folks missed our most recent podcast on the 2nd of February, they can hear Philippe Fournier talk about, he doesn't use the word Goldilocks, but he essentially says it's like the Goldilocks score, right? It's not too hot, it's not too cold. Says there are some realities, right? They lost the election, he lost his riding, he's lost a couple of MPs to floor crossing. You shouldn't be scoring 98%, but still high enough to send a very clear message to members and the rest of the country. Some of the detractors or some of those that are kind of qualifying or yeah-butting the score are saying, well, listen, this is a curated group of individuals in that room. It was $1,000 to attend. If you lived outside Alberta, you probably had to pay to fly there or drive 14 hours or whatever the case is. What are your thoughts on that, on the different rules around voting and how it all played out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was. I agreed with Philippe's analysis. Like, I think 87 was the perfect number for Pierre. Like, I was thinking it would probably be mid to high 80s. So 87 kind of hits that mark. But I think, look, like there are realistic lessons that the Conservative Party needs to learn from the last election. Obviously, they made significant gains, and they talked about those gains in terms of youth, in terms of popular vote turnout, new MPs in the party as well, but they didn't get across the finish line. So how do you kind of learn from that? And I mean, an overwhelming 100%, 98%, 99 endorsement for someone who wasn't able to get the job done probably isn't realistic. So I do think that number very solid. It's simple, easy to stand on. You can kind of show to the membership that I have command of this party. Like the party still trusts me. I am the one to lead us into the next election. But I think there is that opportunity for continued growth. And I think he recognized that. I think we saw the shift in tone from Pierre as well during his speeches. For example, he never really got personal. I mean, his wife was really active on the campaign trail. He talked about his kids, but he got very personal about like the story with his son, with the Spider-Man drawing that he gave him. He brought up people and singled out people specific to the policy issues he's advancing, like whether it was addiction, whether it was mental health. He had actual stories to tie, and like this is what we're fighting for here in Canada. So I think he showed that growth. I think he showed that the party's kind of been learning, and he's been learning since the last election. In terms of the detractors, I mean, and the comments around the convention and who's voting, every political party is different. Every party has something structured a bit differently. I mean, there's pros and cons to all of them, whether it's delegates from each riding association, whether it's a weighted delegation, so each riding's kind of weighted differently, whether it's a per person per vote. There's different opportunities to kind of mobilize and orchestrate a leadership effort, whether it's individual grassroots, whether it's everything else. So if there was an actual movement to get rid of Pierre, which we really didn't see, they would have been able to work within these rules to kind of try to bring that number lower if they'd wanted to.
I thought it was interesting, an issue that I don't know how many Canadians were thinking about Arctic sovereignty, not to say none, but 2-3 years ago, it probably wouldn't have been an issue top of mind for Canadians. Now it feels like not only do we have the Russians to worry about, we got to worry about the Americans. And Poilievre may not spell that out specifically, but he did provide more of a specific plan about what Conservatives would do to protect Canada's North, to defend it, to defend Canada's Arctic sovereignty. I'll get your take on it, but here's Pierre Poilievre in his own words.
It's time to cut the back office bureaucracy and the botched purchases so that massive increases in defense spending actually hit the front line and support our soldiers, sailors, aircrew, and veterans. We will reassert Arctic sovereignty in this great conservative tradition of Harper and Diefenbaker. We will take back control of our North and ensure no foreign powers ever threaten our territory. New bases in Iqaluit. You know, we have no bases in the North right now, in the Arctic North today. We haven't had any since the Cold War. We will open new bases in Iqaluit, Churchill, and Nunavik. 4 rather than 2 new icebreakers will break open that ice and open up new passageways for Canadians. We will speed up the purchases of new tactical submarines. I think my little girl wants to be a submarine sailor. She's very excited by that idea. So I think she's tired of hearing Daddy's speech, though, so we lost her. We will speed up purchases of new submarines, tactical helicopters, satellite ground stations, over-the-top radar, and we will quickly add an arsenal of drones that will cover more territory at lower costs and less risk to Canadian life so that we are ready for the future of warfare. And we will expand recruitment and also performance by promoting and hiring based on merit and not political correctness.
All right, and of course, everybody loves that, the little jab at the end around political correctness and hiring. Promote and celebrate the armed forces and then take a little shot right at the end. I don't know, I might have written that speech a little bit differently. But bigger picture, is this going to be a bigger issue for the average Canadian? Like if there's an election, Colin, within the next 10 months, is the average Canadian going to be focusing on whose plan is better to defend Canada's North?
I don't think it's going to be the ballot question. I do think the ballot questions are going to come back to domestic agendas and domestic issues. Like, are people better under a Mark Carney government is a good way to kind of define it than they were under Justin Trudeau, and could they be better under Pierre Poilievre? But I do think that given everything kind of going on today with our neighbor down to the south, who likes to tweet out stuff in the middle of the night and throw out AI photos of him kind of marching on Greenland, and like, when does it come for the Canadian Arctic next? And I don't know, maybe I just gave him an idea if he's watching your pod, but
Right.
like, I think it's going to continue to be an underlying issue that people are going to be looking at, and they're going to be looking for a prime minister and a candidate who takes national security seriously. I think that this is a message that Pierre did start championing before the last election, even when he was the leader kind of leading up when Justin Trudeau was still there, about the need for a stronger military presence in the Arctic. I think CFB Iqaluit was part of his campaign platform in the last election as well. But it is a real issue. I mean, the prime minister himself has even said you can't really rely on traditional partners anymore. We're seeing our neighbor to the south kind of threaten a NATO member with all of his comments over Greenland. We've seen him come time and time again about making us the 51st state. And then we also have the Russia question. And what is Russia going to do in this time of geopolitical uncertainty? And I mean, look, I'm not a military strategist or anything by any means, but the Arctic is very undefended. There are a lot of reasons for global powers to kind of be interested in Canada's Arctic, and I think it's a sub issue on the foreign affairs side that people are going to be interested in the next election. But I still think that the final vote and the final reason people go to the polls will be about their day-to-day lives, but that will be noise in their day-to-day life that they're going to be dealing with.
We're talking to Colin Aitchison in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. We're going to take a quick break. You can top up your coffee. I want to ask you about his plan to build houses. Said that Conservatives would do much more than the Liberals have. Says Carney's had a year to get the ball rolling and hasn't. I want to drill into that. That's an issue directly relevant to most Canadians, whether it's your nest egg, whether you're trying to get into your first house, whether you're just trying to afford the day-to-day costs of running a household. That's something all over the radar. Can the Conservatives convince Canadians that their plan would be better? More with Colin in just a second. First, Real Talkers, I want to make sure that the Full House Lottery is on your radar. You can now get your tickets. More than $5 million in prizes available. Really remarkable stuff in support of the Royal Alexandra Hospital Foundation and the University Hospital Foundation, including a beautiful legacy signature dream home valued at nearly $2.5 million, including $50,000 cash. I love that. You can upgrade your furniture, maybe prepay your property taxes for a few years. Plus the Dream Haul, a Ford F-150 and a Moomba boat, or $200,000 cash. You could win a dream renovation from Legacy Signature Homes, or $100,000, or a dream outdoor oasis package from Green Tree Landscaping, or $100,000 cash. Plus an early bird with more than $1 million in prizes, 31 days, 31 winners of a dream vacation, and the Big Bucks calendar is back with a cash winner every single day of the year. The 50-50 Extra is back, and the loyalty deadline, this is what we need you circling on your calendar, is midnight, February 25th. So if you get your tickets now, you'll be entered for all draws, starting with a $104,000 dream salary. I love this. $2,000 a week for a full year. If you want more chances to win, buy today. You can get your tickets online at fullhouse.ca, in person at the Dream Home, or by phone at 780-424-6161. You can also get your tickets at the hospital kiosks Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll punch the ticket link into our live chat. It'll be in the show notes for YouTube and the podcast if you want to go directly to Full House Lottery. Our friends at North Road Investment Council reminding you that they are building customized passive portfolios that are designed to capture index returns, but with a strong focus on tax management and matching your values and preferences. And that's why families and institutions, many of them with around $2 million or more to invest, are looking to fully customized factor portfolios in Canada and the U.S., all within a globally diversified investment strategy as directed by the team at North Road Investment Council. If you're at an earlier stage of building your wealth, the team at North Road can also work with you on an hourly basis where you can have a professional review your current investment strategy and your insurance needs and develop a customized financial plan. Plus digital risk advisory services. Nobody else is doing that. They've got a full-time team member on that file. You can connect with them and learn more at northroadic.com. Had a wonderful meal, a take-home meal prepared by the Red Seal chefs at Friesen Brothers the other day. I went with the braised beef short rib, the mashed potatoes, and those roasted root vegetables. It's a winner every time. If I'm guilty of anything at Friesen Brothers, it's that I don't change it up enough. My wife went with the quarter chicken take-home dinner, roasted cauliflower. Our boys love that fresh, never frozen mother dough pizza. You pop it in the oven 18 minutes later. It's better than delivery at a third of the cost. You can check out Friesen Brothers in your neck of the woods, 16 of them across the province of Alberta. And make sure you have their all-you-can-eat Italian feast circled on your calendar on Valentine's Day, the 14th of February. You can find details online. And if you're thinking of going green this spring, pursuing your family's sustainable energy goals, you're going to get solar panels up on your roof. Kubi's 2026 installation schedule is already starting to fill up. So if you want your system installed in 2026, now is the time to reserve your spot. Booking early means that you're going to be at the front of the line for summer's peak production season. You'll be able to start generating energy and seeing savings right away. Don't miss your chance to secure your system and take advantage of another season of clean energy. Don't forget, you can get your free quote today at kuby.ca. That's kuby.ca. Their team will guide you every step of the way. And if you're a first responder anywhere in Western Canada, you make sure you let them know, and they'll knock 5% off the top right out of the gates. That's their Powering Those Who Protect promotion at Solar by Kuby. Talking to Colin Aitchison, former senior staffer for Alberta's UCP government and now doing good work at Enterprise Canada. He was there in the room for the better part of the Conservative Convention down in Calgary over the weekend. Here's a fastball from Meta Modern, who kicks $5 our way in our YouTube Super Chat. Says, at what point is it too embarrassing to admit dear leader lost an election where he had a 25-point lead and then lost his seat? He gets a little crass and says, the ball washing here. But what would you say to Meta Modern? I mean, Conservatives have picked their horse. It's the same horse as the last race. What would you say?
I actually think one thing that Conservatives haven't done well recently is getting rid of the same leader when they have grown the party and not giving them a second chance. I mean, you don't always get your first crack at the can. Stephen Harper had to go through a couple before he became prime minister, right? I think like Pierre Poilievre clearly grew the party. Yes, there are a lot of lessons, and I think I acknowledge that. I think Pierre acknowledged that over the weekend too, that, yeah, they didn't win. They've had some floor crossings. They've taken some beats. They've taken some hits. And I think the tone shift that you saw this weekend is the party kind of recognizing that they do need to take a different approach. And I mean, we'll see what happens in the next election, but I think you do need to give leaders multiple chances before you get rid of them. Otherwise, you're just not building on the momentum you might have already built.
Okay, this is a party game here for you. When I mention a prior or previous Conservative leader, I want you to give me like a 2, 3, 4 word assessment of what jumps out of them. I'll participate as well. I'll do the same thing.
All right.
Stephen Harper. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
You go first. You go first. You're the guest.
I mean, modern founder, leader.
Yeah. I'm going to say statesman. Harper, most folks had no problem, whether they loved him or loathed him, seeing Stephen Harper as a prime minister. He comes across as prime ministerial in his prime and in his career post-politics. Andrew Scheer.
Milk. I always think of that milk carton kind of image. But look, like prairie conservative, staunch prairie conservative.
Aaron O'Toole.
I also think of an image of him right away, and that's that profile photo of him kind of looking buff. But I think militaristic. He kind of went back to his old roots of his time in the military and really focused on the RCAF element of his career.
Yeah, 100%. And then Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, energized. Energized. I think that's the best word following this weekend and kind of the energy he's brought to the Conservative movement.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think when I look at Aaron O'Toole, I think Aaron O'Toole brought a lot of credibility to the office, a lot of respect, including from across the aisle. Obviously didn't get the result he wanted in an election. Andrew Scheer, I don't know. I'm not a partisan Conservative. I'm not a member of any political party, but I just could never really see Andrew Scheer as prime minister. I don't know. There's just something. There's kind of the X factor, I guess, that he doesn't have. He comes across as, and I don't mean it disrespectfully, but I just kind of don't take him seriously in that role. poll. Pierre Poilievre is like, it's interesting because what you cannot deny that he like doubled the party membership, that he has no problem fundraising, that he can get the votes. But there's still people, maybe not within, or at least not among the party loyalists, but there's still people that kind of go, there's just kind of that thing. Maybe it's being stacked up against Mark Carney. He obviously had no problem in the polls, as this comment just alluded to, building up a big lead in the polls against Justin Trudeau. But it was like as soon as Mark Carney entered the equation, Pierre Poilievre got knocked down a notch. And I don't know, it looks like it's some heavy lifting to get back up there and to get a lead in the polls again. Do you think he can do it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll wait and see. I do think he has a chance. I mean, I wouldn't underestimate him. I wouldn't underestimate Steve Outhouse, who's his campaign manager, who's run successful campaigns in different parts of the country. I actually think like that might have been the missing element, and not to knock on Jenny Byrne. I think she did a great job kind of helping build the movement where it's at. She has a great career and track record with Stephen Harper, but I think Steve Outhouse's recent work in Alberta, in Newfoundland and Labrador, out east, he has worked on such very different regional campaigns that I think he's going to be able to kind of bring a cohesive approach to kind of the campaign planning and campaign strategy that the Conservative Party really needs to kind of push themselves over the top. So no, I mean, I think I'm not going to rule him out. I think Pierre has a good shot. I think the polls are tough right now, but I still do think that people are going to go back to that domestic agenda eventually. And Mark Carney's doing a great job on the world stage. I'm not going to discount that. I think his Davos speech was one of the best speeches we've seen from a prime minister. But at the end of the day, I think voters like you and me, a lot of us are selfish and we want to vote for what's best for us. And I think that pivot from international statesmen to domestic agenda is tough, and I think it's going to be tough for Mark Carney, especially given his background on the international stage. And I think Pierre Poilievre has a window there to really carve out himself as that person that can kind of address those domestic issues that Canadians are being kept up at night by.
Yeah, housing affordability, housing supply is an obvious one, and I want to get to your take on what Pierre Poilievre put in front of Conservative Party members down in Calgary.
You want to launch or relaunch the biggest tariff-proof industry in Canada? You know what it is? Home building. No other country can tariff home building because it's built on Canadian homes, on Canadian land, with Canadian workers using Canadian lumber. It is literally the most homegrown industry we have. So why don't we dedicate ourselves to working with all levels of government to remove all the taxes and all the red tape so that we can create jobs, harvest more lumber, and build homes that our young people can afford.
Obviously, that's going to catch the attention of anybody right now that's doing everything they can to attain home ownership, and they just feel like every single month that passes, it's slipping away. Is the Liberal government, is it a believable position to take that the Liberals have dropped the ball on this, that the Conservatives could do better? How do you roll that out if you're advising the Prime Minister or, pardon me, the official opposition leader who wants to be PM?
Yeah, I do think it is a believable take because you just have to look at the past 10 years, right? I'm not going to rag on Justin Trudeau because he's no longer in the picture, but Liberal, like, home building has fallen behind and the ability to attain a home has fallen behind over the past few years. Now, you can argue there's a lot of different pressures, global inflation, everything else, but there are policies that the federal government could have rolled out that could have kind of championed that. And I think that's what Pierre Poilievre was hinting on. Like, let's reduce the tax burden. Let's reduce red tape. Let's get homes built. I think the federal government has come out under Mark Carney and they created a new agency, Build Canada Homes. But like, call me a skeptic, I've never seen a new government agency be able to reduce red tape to get stuff built. And so I do think it's a message that is going to resonate. I mean, I'm 32. I'm down here in Calgary. I'm still renting. My family had their first single family home before I was born, and my parents were in their 20s, right? So I think that that goal of home ownership is becoming unattainable. I think for young voters and young people, and especially those who might be voting in their first election next time, they're worried about that ability to buy a home. They want to invest in themselves, not just contribute to the rental market in a cycle and be unable to get out of it. But I also think older generations, it's a message that resonates for them. I mean, we have a lot of 20-year-olds that are still living at home with their family who are struggling to make ends meet and struggling to get by. And they're seeing that their kids aren't able to kind of get the head start in life that they were able to get. So I think it's a message that kind of transcends generations. And I think that's something that is going to resonate. And I think if it's rolled out correctly, it could be one of the defining issues on an affordability ballot question next election.
There's a significant number of people in our live chat right now, including Dwayne and Gilles and others that are pointing out that housing, they say for the most part, they go, this is a municipal issue, or this is a provincial issue. And I mean, you're shaking your head right out of the gates. Obviously, this is a common play for an elected official to point out or suggest or allude to the fact that it's not their file. It's not their jurisdiction. It's not their problem. It's not their responsibility. Why did you immediately start shaking your head no when I read those comments?
Yeah, sure. Traditionally, it may have been, but I mean, we see the federal government kind of step into other areas that aren't their jurisdiction, right? And I think this is one of the most defining and pressing issues when it comes to affordability for this next generation. And if you have federal governments over the past 10 years that are willing to kind of step into what provinces are doing, directly fund municipalities to build projects like homes, like there's more that they can do. And I mean, if you want to fix the affordability issue, getting a head start in the housing market is a good way to do it, because you're investing in yourself, you're building equity, you're no longer just contributing to a cycle of rental relationships. And if you're able to kind of get out of that rental market, investing in yourself, you're building your generational wealth, which will go on and on and on and down your family tree. And I think that there is a lot of opportunity for capital supports from the federal government. I mean, Mark Carney built that agency in order to do this. Yes, municipalities have a role to play. I know zoning is a big issue. It was an issue that was here in Alberta that kind of dominated the municipal election, for example. Provinces have a role to play, but the feds have a role to play as well. And it's going to take all three levels of government right now to kind of address this, given where we're at and how hard it is for some folks to even enter into the market right now.
Interesting comments here. Ms. KD, thanks for your YouTube channel membership. KD says, I came here, she's talking about Alberta, from Vancouver. She says 20-year-olds do not own homes and haven't for probably a century. Pongi says, if it's not provincial, then why can kids in New Brunswick afford homes, but kids making double the salary can't in Alberta? This is kind of an interesting comment here from an audience member that says, this is Nia, who says, I guess we'll see if Mr. Poilievre supports the Liberal bill for home construction, or if he's a hypocrite and he stalls it. This is kind of an interesting comment, or Nia tees up an interesting question. I'll harken back to the point I made earlier, where Pierre Poilievre says, we will work with the Liberal government, which I actually think personally is kind of an empty platitude. I don't think that that's necessary, but he sort of talks about like a solidarity or a unified front, where he says, we'll work with the government to deal with the United States or to negotiate CUSMA, whatever that means. In opposition, like at some point, you acknowledge that the electorate would like to see politicians working together to make everybody's life better. But you also don't want to make it smooth sailing for the government, allow them to survive a minority position and ultimately stay out of the office that you want to achieve, the PMO, for a longer period of time. What's the right play for Poilievre's Conservatives here?
Yeah, I think it's a case-by-case issue, right? So, I mean, on the legislative front, I haven't read the legislation, so I don't know if it's something that the Conservatives would support. I mean, it's very easy for a government to label a bill, the Building More Homes in Canada Now Act, and that sounds great on paper, but when you get into the fine-tooth comb, is it actually a good piece of legislation? I'm not sure, but it gives the government something to hit the opposition for opposing the Building More Homes Now Act. But I think one thing to take away from the last federal election, and I think we're seeing it with opposition parties across the country, even at the provincial level, is people are sick of opposition parties opposing for the sake of opposing. And it's something that it's very easy to kind of get stuck in that cycle of we need to oppose everything because we're going to form government and we need to kind of beat that government and everything they do is bad. And I think that's why Pierre Poilievre has kind of talked about that shift of tone. We'll support where we can support and we won't when we won't. And I mean, you're seeing other opposition parties, the Progressive Conservatives in Ontario in the final days of the Wynne government said the same thing. I think Canadians are just tired of the pure adversarial approach. And I think you're going to see the federal Conservative Party support good ideas when they come up. Now, the question is what is a good idea to a Conservative and what's a good idea to a Liberals and how do they apply to everyday people? And that'll be kind of the barometer for that. But I do think, and I've heard talk on the Hill of people behind the scenes working on this GST credit and helping kind of get that through cross-partisan. There might be some jabs in the media, but we don't know the inner workings of Parliament Hill. Like, there's a lot of nuances with committees and everything else that opposition parties do work with governments all the time. And what we see play out in the public scene might not be actually what's happening behind the scenes. And I do think you're going to see MPs from all political stripes kind of working together to kind of address these challenges, especially when it comes to Donald Trump.
I left this question for the end because I don't think that it's the most significant, but I am curious to pick your brain on it. You've worked for Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, and you understand the pickle that she's in to a certain degree with Alberta separatists and, of course, the kind of right-wing flank, the socially conservative flank of that party's base. She's trying to walk a fine line. 2026 is going to be very interesting. I'm curious for your assessment of, or what you saw in that context at the federal convention. I saw, for example, Jeff Rath outside doing interviews and talking about it. I didn't see any disruption along the lines of what we saw at the UCP AGM. Just your sense of whether or not this will be a problem or a challenge for Pierre Poilievre. I mean, he represents the riding of Battle River Crowfoot. Obviously, Alberta is very strong and very important to Canada's Conservatives when it comes to seat count. What are you expecting to see over the next number of months?
Yeah, I think looking at the weekend, Jeff Rath was there. I saw him walking around. I did a bunch of media, and this came up in pretty much every interview. And I think one of the reasons it wasn't overly acknowledged, Pierre Poilievre did acknowledge it, saying, look, under the Liberals, separatism's back again. But I think it wasn't acknowledged because this was a group of Conservatives from Victoria to Newfoundland. And I think if you're talking to someone from New Brunswick about Alberta separatism, they're going to be like, okay, 30% polling, I don't really care because it is a minority group of the province. But at the same time, I think the tightrope that you mentioned about Danielle Smith is it's a group that can't be ignored, because if you ignore them, if you discredit them like David Eby did next door and everything else, it fires them up and motivates them every more. So there needs to be outlets. There needs to be an understanding of their concerns. And I think that's where Pierre kind of went in his speech, because he mentioned that this dissatisfaction with Canada has come up and reignited under a decade of Liberal rule. And he is kind of positioning himself as, we are the solution to address the underlying concerns. Obviously, he wants to be Prime Minister. He wants to be Prime Minister of Canada. He's a proud Canadian. I think pretty much most of the people in that room are as well. It was a party that is designed to kind of form the federal government of Canada. But by addressing the underlying concerns, like people can't get ahead, affordability, too much federal government intervention, et cetera, that is the message he can kind of drive moving forward as a way to kind of position himself as, look, the Liberals in the 90s, they positioned themselves as the party that held Canada together when Quebec was going through its crisis. The Conservative Party is the party that can hold Canada together going through this Western alienation period. So I think that's the kind of message you can kind of point to. It might give him some headaches, but I genuinely don't think across the country. I'm originally from Ontario. I have friends texting me every day being like, are we still talking about this? Are we done? Yeah. I don't think it's going to hurt him in the areas that he needs to win seats. Yeah.
Colin Aitchison from Enterprise Canada, former senior political staffer for Alberta's UCP, and of course an attendee at Conservative Convention 2026 down in Calgary. Thanks for your insights. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Colin. Feature interviews here on Real Talk presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. The best or nothing. Scarlett says, I'm not saying I agree with it, but the spin from Pierre Poilievre on separatism was a brilliant communications move. Whoever advised him on that should get a raise. Others of you are talking about housing and the prices of housing. And I mean, a lot of you make really good points, right? Like Dan in here, what's up, Dan, says houses were technically cheaper in the 1980s relative to income, but they were not more affordable on a monthly cash flow basis due to punishingly high interest rates. I was but a wee lad, but you remember hearing people talking in the early 1980s. Sure, a house may have been, I don't know, I guess depending on where you lived and what you were buying, but you see these wild prices. We can't wrap our minds around it now. I talked to a neighbor of mine across the street. It's a beautiful home that she lives in, a heritage home, historically designated. I don't know what it's worth. It's probably $900,000 or $1 million. I don't know. She told me she bought it for $150,000, right? In the early 1990s. But if you talk to people that were buying these houses back in the 1980s, a lot of you in this chat will remember, because you were the ones that were forking over your hard-earned dollars, that you were paying like credit card interest rates on mortgages, right? Like people are buying houses and paying like interest in the 20% or higher range. Like if you try to wrap your mind around that now, you think of kind of how we're conditioned these days, and maybe it's a psychology thing. This is something I think that we could do a deep dive on and understand the psyche of the consumer thing. We could talk about dopamine hits and where we find our fulfillment and where our priorities lie. Maybe there's a thing about this generation or these younger generations where we want more now and we're not as content to wait for it or to save up for it. Is there such a thing as a starter home anymore, or does everybody kind of want to make a jump from a condo to 4 bedrooms and 3 baths, right? That kind of idea. But you're all sharing your personal experiences, and it's interesting to hear. Like, my name goes here. Pretty sure that's Explorer Hollis with a new handle. Says, I bought my first house at 26 years old back in 2019 with 0 parental help. Says, maybe I'm fortunate. But some of this young people can't afford homes stuff, it's just not true. He says young people can afford homes. I did. I guarantee we could hear from a ton of people that'll tell you that they're working their hardest and they're doing their best and they're making sacrifices and they just can't. Always rolls, says Albertans have been propagandized for many decades. Many can parrot talking points easier than remembering their relatives' names. Gilles says until housing stops being an investment, in other words, value increasing far beyond real dollar value over time, there will continue to be a challenge with housing affordability. I've got a buddy down in Calgary, smart guy. He is convinced that there's about to be I don't know, he doesn't say about to be, but that there will be a major correction on housing prices. And not in a good way if it's your nest egg and you're hoping to use that equity to put your kids through university or to fund your retirement or whatever you may need, in the autumn and winter of your life, so to speak. He's convinced of it. I'd be curious to know where you're at. Send us an email to talk@ryanjespersen.com. Erica, in our live chat powered by Park Power, she says, I don't care where they're from on the political spectrum. I will listen to any potential solution for housing. It doesn't mean I'll accept it or believe it necessarily, but I will definitely listen. Interesting comment from Corradetti Motorsports. It says, Pierre Poilievre, in doing those assessments, the few words, what do you think of this leader, that leader, this leader, that leader? Says Pierre's not a leader per se. He's a junkyard dog. He doesn't know when to sit or how to pivot when needed. You can tell he's trying to, it's obviously he's got to do this, but he's trying to come across as likable and smiley and talking about his kids and the little jokes at the beginning. I'm not sure if you watched the full speech. It's like the first few sentences. He says, gosh, there's so many conservatives here. I wonder if the liberals are going to invoke the Emergencies Act. Like, does his little stand-up routine off the top. Guy smiley. Maybe he is that likable guy off camera. We talked just last week, didn't we, with Erica Barudis about how Jason Kenney's like very different behind a podium than he is over beers, right? And folks are starting to see that other side of Kenney, the wisecracking guy. The guy that'll call people kooks and clowns. Not always been like that publicly, right? So what's he really like? With Poilievre, me personally, I don't know. He's more in his wheelhouse. When he's being snarky, he's more in his wheelhouse, like delivering those 3-word slogans that we talked about a couple of episodes back. That's where he's very comfortable. He's always been that way in the public spotlight. Can you reinvent yourself as a more likable guy, filing down your teeth, so to speak? Does it even make sense for him? Interesting comment from Corradetti Motorsports. I'd be curious to know where you land on this as well. We're going to turn the page for a moment. By the way, we still have some emails to come. Those of you that have written in about our interview with Dr. Paul Parks, past president of the Alberta Medical Association, and of course, an ER doc for many years in the province of Alberta, came on here and just basically gave a state of the province address. It was just a wake-up call, sounding the alarm, a state of emergency, they say, in Alberta's ERs, and for that matter, across the country. Very real challenges. And we got some interesting takes. We're going to get to those emails before the show is done. But on the other side of this quick break, we're going to check in with Chris Yeung. Chris is part of the team that's putting together the Edmonton Tourism Awards. I want to talk about the tourism economy, the visitor economy. What really drives the economic potential or the growth of a region? We're going to go there in just a quick second. But today is Tuesday, the day that we're doing this episode, and every Tuesday we partner with our friends at the Royal Alexandra Hospital Foundation to shine a light on the incredible work that's being done at the Royal Alexandra Hospital. If you can believe it, celebrating 125 years at the Alex. Well, it's Heart Month at the Royal Alex through the month of February, and that's where we'll shine a light today. You know, most people go into routine medical appointments expecting reassurance, and that was definitely the case with Christy Eisert. Her 20-week ultrasound was supposed to be just that, routine. But in that quiet room, she knew that something wasn't right. The technician grew silent. The images kept coming. Christy's unborn son, Otto, had a complex congenital heart defect. Now, because Christy had access to prenatal care, Otto's condition was caught early before he ever took his first breath. And that early detection changed everything. From that moment on, care became a carefully coordinated effort. At the Royal Alexandra Hospital, specialists in women's health, maternal fetal medicine, and pediatric cardiology worked together, monitoring Otto's heart, planning his birth, and preparing for what he would need immediately after delivery. And as Christy's pregnancy progressed, it became clear that Otto needed to be born close to specialized cardiac care, so she was relocated closer to Alberta's capital, in Edmonton. And when the time came, Otto arrived by emergency C-section at the Royal Alex. He was strong, but his heart was fragile. Because his care had been planned months in advance, the teams were ready. Otto was stabilized, transferred to intensive care, and closely monitored in those critical early days. At just 2 months old, Otto underwent his first open heart surgery. Hours of precision, days of recovery, a weight that no parent ever wants to endure, but Otto pulled through. And the journey didn't stop there. He would need ongoing care, follow-up, another open heart surgery years later, each step reflecting advances in cardiac medicine that made healing safer and recovery easier. Well, we're thrilled to let you know that Otto recently celebrated his 9th birthday. I don't know why I just got chills, but I did. Otto plays sports, and he keeps up with his friends, and he knows his scar, and he wears it proudly. And if you ask his mom, Christy says that his life is proof of what's possible when healthcare works in harmony, when women's health and cardiac care intersect, and when planning, expertise, and compassion come together. This Heart Month, stories like Otto's remind us why the work of the Royal Alex and the C.K. Huey Heart Center matters. If you'd like to support life-saving cardiac care from before birth and beyond, you can visit givetocekhui.org. That's givetocekhui.org. Real Talk is proud to support the C.K. Huey Heart Center at the Royal Alexandra Hospital through Heart Month and around the year. Echoes of the Alex is proudly presented by the Royal Alexandra Hospital Foundation, Tuesdays, right here on Real Talk. Oh, nice to have Chris Yeung in our Real Talk studio in the historic Mercer Warehouse in downtown Edmonton. A lot of folks, Chris, will know you, of course, from your role with Edmonton Destination Marketing Hotels. It's great to have you here. What is it that the Edmonton Destination Marketing Hotels Group does? What's the number one mandate?
Yeah, you know, our mandate is, the metrics is heads and beds. Our goal is to drive marketing and investments into events that really drive traffic to Edmonton and, you know, those visitors that stay in our hotels. So we make up about 75% of the hotel room inventory in Edmonton, collectively as members in EDMH.
So your members are hoteliers across the city.
Correct.
And this would include like the big guys, the big towers,
the big brands,
all the way down to the so-called boutique hotels and the like.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
It's a dynamic industry.
It is. It's very unique. We get to do a lot of cool things. We get to sponsor a lot of big events. We also work in tandem with Explore Edmonton. We're one of their largest funders. And it's really fun. It's actually a fun job, Ryan.
You didn't always do this.
No,
you were like a teacher. You've been an investment guy. You worked for a huge law firm. You've been all over the place.
I'm not your traditional career.
Yeah,
guy. Yeah. So this is I'm a bit of an outsider. Never worked in hotels. I've raised capital to build hotels before, but I've never actually operated one. But it's a unique job. It's one that there's a little bit of city building involved, but promoting and attending some really, really good events around the city.
Yeah, like basically your mandate or your goal is to grow an industry that I think everybody can get excited about. Like if you live in a city, who doesn't love hearing that the city is securing, top shelf, high visibility, premier type events?
Yeah.
And who doesn't love hitting the road and going on a trip and visiting a new city to do something cool and check it out?
Yeah. Well, and you know what? This year, super exciting for Edmonton. I don't know if everybody's been following, but we have had, I think, 5 concert nights been announced for Commonwealth. And the reason why we love it as a hotel industry, every time Commonwealth sells out, our hotels are packed. In fact, the compression goes all the way to like the airport. Those hotels get filled as well. So it's very exciting when we hear about, concerts at Commonwealth. So this year, I would say it's a bit of a rock and roll year for Edmonton. We've got AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, Foo Fighters. Yeah. And then the country stars just announced yesterday with Jelly Roll and Post Malone. So that's 5 total nights of concerts. So our hotels are excited for that, but it just brings that energy to the city to have that.
Do you need, do the hotel, when I say you, does the hotel industry, you can't pack Commonwealth Stadium every night.
No.
Right? Or you can't even pack Commonwealth Stadium once a week. What does a healthy hotel market look like? Or what is a healthy, when you look at a municipality or a jurisdiction, let's say a region, what does a healthy business look like, year over year kind of thing?
Yeah, hotels, if they can maintain, 65, 70% occupancy rates, it's a pretty healthy industry. But you also have to take a look at the ability to drive hotel room rates as well. Some of the metrics in hotel lingo is like RevPAR, revenue per available room. And that's really the key. It's how profitable can you run that hotel? So I will say, full disclosure, Edmonton is still struggling a little bit to recover from the pandemic.
Yeah.
Since the pandemic, compared to our peer cities. One of the cities doing really well is like Winnipeg. Their RevPAR is very high. Occupancies are really high. So, they're doing something right out there to drive that consistent demand.
Do you know what
for
it
the
is?
City. I can't pinpoint it exactly, but you've got not only the big events, but you've got like grassroots regional events that also drive and fills that gap when those big events aren't around.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, it's interesting. We're in an interesting location here in Mercer Warehouse, for example. I'm not talking hotels, but restaurateurs, bar owners, tourism operators, you might refer to them as, right?
Yeah.
Certainly those that are participating in the visitor economy. And when they're speaking candidly, and I'm not attributing this to any specific pub,
Sure.
We're not speaking on their behalf, but when they're speaking candidly, they say, game night or concert night is great. Being 150 feet from the arena, that's great. They say, but we have to figure out how to drive revenue, how to fill our bar, how to fill our restaurant the other 270 nights of the year, right?
Yeah.
It's almost a universal challenge.
It's the same with our hotel members, right? Again, we love the big events. We love the big conferences that come. But, it's almost a catch-up game, right? You make your money for that one big event, and then you've got a lull for the next 5 weeks that you've used that profit to then keep operations going. So one of our big drivers this year for us as EDMH is looking at supporting a lot of that grassroots programs that we have in Edmonton, because we can count on those events to be here every year. So when we look at the Fringe Festival, when we take a look at Great Outdoor Comedies Festival, those are all homegrown success stories in Edmonton. So the idea is how do we support more of that? Because we know there's a lot more of that, especially in the sporting world. So we're doubling down a little bit on like basketball. We're doing some soccer events. So how do we look at those built and made in Edmonton? Plus, those are what makes Edmonton unique. And that in itself is attracting tourism to our city.
That Great Outdoors Comedy Festival is
amazing.
What a case study. Hey, there's people that I know personally, and I bet you many members of this audience would this. I'm probably just describing them. They will not miss it every single year. This is something that's just huge for them. Is there a secret sauce when it comes to, like you mentioned, Fringe? Obviously, that's had incredible staying power.
Yep.
One of the things I admire about Fringe is that it's at so many, for people that have checked it out, the Fringe Theater Festival, so many different venues, but there's still a collective spirit. It's a very unique event there. The Great Outdoors Comedy Festival, what else do you need except for beautiful weather outside with thousands of people and some of the funniest comedians in the world? That obviously works. But is there something else? Is there like a playbook that event organizers or festival founders can follow to ensure, or at least to put it in the right direction towards success?
You know what? Actually, it's going to be a little bit different and an odd answer to your question, but it's something in the water in Edmonton.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. We seem to really build up these, I would say, very entrepreneurial approaches to building these festivals, these events. There's something in the water in Edmonton that cultivates that. What we're not good at is, once we've get them built, is nurturing them to get them to the next level. So Great Outdoor Comedy Festival has taken it to the next level. So it's understanding what that playbook is. So we have no shortage of ideas. We have no shortage of capable people in Edmonton to do it. It's helping them nurture and get to that scalable level. So again, going back to one of our mandates this year is to look for those that we can help support financially and with some of our expertise in the hospitality industry to get them to a scalable level.
Getting CFR back in Edmonton every single year has to have been huge.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. It drives like 60% of the attendees from CFR come from out of town.
60%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you talk to people that attend Canadian Finals Rodeo and that love it. And they've all the kind of the funny thing, and you spent like 20 years in Calgary, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, me too. Like my first 20 years, basically.
Yeah.
And you talk to, obviously, Calgary's got a long and rich rodeo tradition. Obviously, the Calgary Stampede, the richest rodeo in the world, and yada, yada, yada. But when you talk to people in Edmonton about CFR, even people that are visiting from southern parts of the province or outside, and collectively, it just seems consistently people say CFR just belongs in Edmonton. Like it's just kind of found a fit in this city.
Yeah. And it had a long history, right? It was here and then it left for a few years. And rumor has it they couldn't really work it in some of the other jurisdictions. So
sorry to hear it.
They're very happy to have it back. I would say we also have the professional bull riders that happens afterwards.
Yeah.
And for those who are following CFR this year, it's starting a week later, and which is good because it's a week later into harvest season for a lot of the farmers out there who this is the core demographic for the CFR.
People in here are like shouting out their favorite festivals and stuff like that, which is cool. I'm not surprised. Dwayne says the Edmonton Blues Festival was fantastic. Said he went to it 13 times. Gilles says Edmonton's Fringe Festival, the second largest in the world behind only Edinburgh. And I know that they're very proud of that as well. The Edmonton Tourism Awards, as mentioned, I'm thrilled, by the way. Thanks for the tap on the shoulder to host June 5th at the Expo Center. But the submission deadline for nominations is coming up this month, February 26th. And there's a ton of different awards that are going to be handed out, right? Accommodations, attractions, festival events, culinary tourism, customer service, destination leadership, individual excellence. Why are these awards so important?
It's a way for us, at least from the hotel standpoint, to give back to the community, to shine a light on all the groups that really help make, Edmonton a destination for visitors. And I think one of the things that often, we're calling for nominations, and we're actually getting quite a few this year, but you're not too small to nominate yourself in, because I would say a lot of the businesses, small businesses, mom and pop shops, they play a part in welcoming that visitor. So it's not just the big attractions and events that we know of and hear about and see all the time. It's also the little pub on the corner that provides just that little bit of hospitality for those visitors to come.
I'm always, maybe I should stop being surprised because I've heard it enough, but I'm always impressed. It makes an impression on me when I hear the value of the tourism economy. I hosted, the TIA group, the Tourism Industry Association of Alberta, and I was lucky enough to host some stuff for them just a short time ago. And hearing tourism operators from across the province talk about the economic impact of Alberta's tourism economy, or in this case of us talking today of the Metro Edmonton's tourism economy, I think that the average person would probably underestimate the significance of that industry to the economy. It's among the leaders in what drives an economy.
Yeah, Tourism Alberta has a very ambitious goal. 2030, they want to have $25 billion market for tourism, and they see it as an export product. If you think about it, if we curate these unique experiences even in our city, we can go out and sell that and bring visitors in. For Edmonton last year, based on Explore Edmonton's stats, it's about $2.5 billion in spending, economic impact for Edmonton, for the visitor economy. And you got to think, these people, they come, spend a week, spend their money, and then they leave. So you think about the public infrastructure and programs that need to support that individual, they're just here for the week and they're spending fresh money into our city. So, for us to drive it, it's a very important part of the economy. It's fresh money into the economy. It keeps a lot of these businesses afloat, and it just, that community aspect and driving that energy, you can't downplay that part of it as well.
So there's going to be people here that work in the industry and may consider nominating one of their peers for an Edmonton Tourism Award. There's guaranteed going to be folks that have either visited Edmonton within the last year or live in or near Edmonton that maybe would nominate an operator that's really made an impression on them. Who should be applying or nominating? Like, who's a good fit for this?
Yeah, you know what? It's I would say everyone's a good fit. Think about even if you've gone out and did like a pub crawl, or some of the distilleries around town that host events and bring community together. Think of those ones to nominate. We have the traditional ones, right? Like the TELUS World of Science, and the Edmonton Oilers and their events. But think outside the box a little bit when it comes to those nominations.
I'm looking here at the awards categories. Again, people can check out EdmontonTourismAwards.com. You got a whole bunch of them. Attraction of the Year, which would be a cool one. That would be a nice trophy to have in your case, a nice honor, a nice recognition. The Business Event of the Year, which is a cool one. I can think of a couple off the top of my head. Culinary Tourism. I love that category. The Customer Service Award. I mean, that could be anybody, right?
So coming from outside the industry, and last year was my first year I started at EDMH, and attending the awards there, I'm like, what is this thing? I never really heard about it before. And, I go, but the impact that these nominees and these finalists, Carrie West was I will never forget one of the directors at Carrie West, when she won the award, when the group won, she went up, she was in tears accepting this award. I since had a conversation with her, and she said, Chris, the amount of hours our volunteer board puts to build Carrie West for the city and to bring the community together. She's like, to get recognized. Yeah. And so the power of that really hit me when I attended last year. So yeah, like a lot of the festivals that are run in Edmonton start out with volunteers. And I think they deserve to be recognized because through their volunteerism, they're driving real dollars into the city.
I think it's cool that people can nominate themselves, by the way.
Yes.
There's a lot of award shows where you cannot. Most award shows, I don't think you can nominate yourself. I'm trying to think. There are some media awards where you can. You would nominate an episode or an interview or a hosting performance. But in this circumstance, I think maybe part of my job, maybe it's part of your job, is to encourage people should not be shy. People should not be bashful. People should, humility is a wonderful character quality. But people should absolutely, am I wrong? People should consider nominating themselves or their team, right?
Yeah. You've chatted with Doug Griffiths from the Chamber.
Yeah, many times.
His biggest thing is that we're very humble here in Edmonton. We have so much success from every aspect of this city, but we're so quiet about it.
Yeah.
And I will say living in Calgary, that's the difference, right? Calgary,
here we go.
They're loud and proud about every accomplishment they have.
Yeah.
We're a bit quiet in Edmonton. So nominate yourself there's nothing wrong with that. And we encourage that. We want to hear from these, organizations. Definitely, we want to tell the story of Edmonton. We want to build this for the city. So yeah, nominate yourself.
Okay, so people have until, and we'll just check out the website here. I'm looking right now. So people have, you got a ton of nomination categories here. Edmonton Tourism Awards. People have about 3 weeks as we speak right now. About 3 weeks to get those submissions or those nominations in, and then your judges go to work.
Yeah, so we have judges that outside of EDMH, they will make the decision, but it's not a heavy lift. So don't think you have to spend like millions of hours on this thing. We want to make it as easy as possible to get your story into these nominations.
Okay, the Social Media Impact Award. That's an interesting one.
More influencers now, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, I follow them on Instagram, a lot of foodies.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah, I mean, if I'm deciding, I mean, it's just the whole influencer thing is wild. I mean, my wife does that kind of work, so I see it firsthand. But boy, has the game ever changed in marketing and promotion and partnerships and the like. Can people attend? I saw an inquiry in our live chat. Can people attend the awards if they just? Yeah,
they can. So
get your
tickets. I got my notes here. Tickets February 15th.
Okay.
Is when they go on sale. So a lot of the industry and obviously our hotel members all attend this. But yeah, the tickets will be available for the public to purchase.
Okay, cool. Again, EdmontonTourismAwards.com is basically has everything that you need to know, including the nomination categories. You can check out the process. You can even check out the past winners. Your team's done a really nice job of highlighting past winners. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for the opportunity.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah, it's going to be a great day. I mean, man, I'm all about, and by the way, I love that it's a matinee awards gala. Kind of just sends people into the weekend with the right vibe.
Super positive.
And
then they can see places they haven't visited yet.
Right?
And they can go experience it.
Exactly. It's almost like you guys thought this all the way through, Chris.
Just a little bit.
Nicely done. Thanks for hanging out with us today in studio. We appreciate it.
Ryan, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, you got it. Chris Yeung is Executive Director of Edmonton Destination Marketing Hotels at edmontonbesthotels.com. Of course, they are putting on the Edmonton Tourism Awards on the 5th of June. The submission deadline, the 26th of February. Check out edmontontourismawards.com for more. We're also thrilled to rally support for the new Stollery Children's Hospital. If you missed our Real Talk Roundtable, in our most recent episode, that was the 2nd of February, met just an incredible 10-year-old named Emmy, who joined us with her mom in studio and shared their story of the Stollery. That's been a 10-year journey for Emmy, multiple spinal surgeries. What a courageous young fighter she is. You can see her featured. We're showing you right now at StolleryNoBounds.com. Edmonton, the municipal region, is turned purple all week this week in the name of Stollery Kids. That's because it is Stollery No Bounds Week, a celebration of kids like Emmy, whose strength has no limits, and a city that rallies behind them. So from your home to your workplace, wear purple, light it up, show your Stollery pride. When our community comes together, friends, there are no bounds to what we can do for kids and families that need us most. That's why we invite you to observe Stollery No Bounds Week, paint the city purple. You can check out StolleryKids.com. We also want to make sure that this new project is on your radar. This is an audacious, ambitious, and let me say attainable goal. The Stollery is looking to raise $1 billion to build that new hospital. It's $1 billion vision for kids' health. You can learn more at StolleryNoBounds.com. We talked to Karen Faulkner. Kevin McKee were in studio with us yesterday as well. She's the president and CEO of the Stollery. He's the chair of the board. Of course, you raise $1 billion, $1 at a time. They'll get some help, I'm sure, from the province, from the feds, from philanthropists who have forged amazing careers themselves, but it's also going to be raised with lemonade stands and bake sales and all that cool stuff that brings communities together. Please do, the next time your family is considering a fundraising initiative, consider the Stollery and the No Bounds campaign at StolleryNoBounds.com. This is proudly presented by our commitment to the Stollery and, of course, Real Talk's advocacy through the year. Thanks to our partnership with California Closets of Canada. Amazing charitable partners, including at the Real Talk Golf Classic. The team at California Closets is proudly Canadian owned and operating out of our home province of Alberta. As a matter of fact, everything that you see, like what Johnny's showing you now, these entertainment center installations, the Murphy beds, the incredible laundry room installations, the boot rooms, the custom garages, manufactured right here in Alberta and guaranteed for life. The California Closets journey starts with a free design consultation. You can talk about your space, you can talk about your budget, and then their team will brainstorm for you. I guarantee they'll knock your socks off, just like they did ours 8 years ago. Our installation still looks as good as it did when it was first installed, and we have the confidence that it's guaranteed for life. You can book your free consultation today at californiaclosets.ca. Hey, have you sent us your Alberta wins story yet? One lucky Real Talker is going to win 2 tickets into the Play Alberta Suite on Saturday, the 21st of March, as the Edmonton Oilers host the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's Real Talk night in the Play Alberta Suite, and one Real Talker that sends in a story of a big Alberta win is going to be there with a guest joining us. You can send that to talk@ryanjespersen.com. Every Thursday, we feature stories of Albertans winning big nationally or internationally. Community heroes, industry champions, athletic achievements. Alberta wins to talk@ryanjespersen.com. You know, there's winners every single day on the Play Alberta app and at playalberta.ca, your one-stop shop for casino, sports, and lottery. We love that all the revenue through Play Alberta stays in the province of Alberta. This is the only site or gambling service where that's the case, and that's a fact. You can learn more about it by downloading the app today or checking out playalberta.ca. You've got to be 18 or over to play, and if you gamble, please do use your game sense. And before we get to Edna's email on Dr. Paul Parks, I want to make sure that you have the 9th to the 11th of March or the 16th to the 18th of March circled on your calendar. The UCAN Comedy Nights are back for their 16th year. These go down at the Comic Strip on Bourbon Street in West Edmonton Mall. An absolute blast. You're going to be laughing the whole time through. I can virtually guarantee it. And all the proceeds are going to go toward UCAN Youth Services, where they work with young people to take them off the path toward harm's way and onto a path of economic independence. We've seen the proof of performance with UCAN and couldn't be more impressed. That's why we're proud to name them our charity of choice this year. Get your tickets for UCAN Comedy Nights. Invite your friends. Fill a table of 10. That's what we're doing. Get your tickets today at ucancomedy.com. Cool to see Tracy here in our live chat. Says today she's going to be working with her team at work to learn more about Spotify. She says our team members have volunteered to spend 30 minutes with me this afternoon to learn Spotify a little bit better. She says, I'm looking forward to it. Tracy, make sure you check out the show. You know, the majority of our audience that listens on podcast listens on Apple Podcasts, but we've seen the biggest growth. Here's a little peek behind the curtain, Tracy, prompted by your comment. The biggest growth of any platform has been on Spotify. And I think in large part because Spotify has really leveled up what they're offering, including HD video. You know, we shoot the show in HD video, but we can't stream it in HD on YouTube. So the only place that you can watch Real Talk in HD, right now anyway, is on Spotify. You can also participate in polls. You can leave comments on there. So let us know what your Spotify user experience has been like once you move over there. We just sent out, Johnny, I don't remember how many they were, dozens and dozens of thank you packages to Real Talkers who had all sent us their Spotify Wrapped details and proven to us that they were in the top 1% of Spotify listeners or the top 0.5% of Spotify listeners. And it was really neat to hear from people. I don't blame the Apple Podcast listeners. I don't blame the iHeartMedia listeners and wherever else you get your podcast for reaching out and saying, well, where's our prize packs? Where's the love for us? But this was in particular a shout out to those of you that participated in Spotify Wrapped. And of course, you know, really, I don't know, to be honest with you, it just made our day when you let us know that Real Talk is just a regular part of your routine. I wanted to leave some time in the show today to get to some emails that we've received following our interview with Dr. Paul Parks, but I thought it probably made sense, does definitely make sense to hear from Dr. Parks first. He was on the show just a short time ago. This is the past president of the Alberta Medical Association and really sounding the alarm on what was described in a leaked document as Alberta's death zones. That's Alberta's emergency rooms. Here's Dr. Paul Parks on Real Talk.
We are in disaster mode, crisis mode, whatever you want to call it. Our premier likes to talk about every topic like an expert, and her silence is deafening, man. The fact that she hasn't said a peep about this while people are dying in our hospitals is really concerning and should concern Albertans. And we do have ideas and we do have solutions. I'm not just sitting here pissing and moaning. They think I'm Chicken Little. They think I'm just out there making shit up. And I have to say, I'm representing hundreds of physicians that are talking to me daily. Most healthcare workers and physicians do not want to speak about this publicly right now, Ryan, because they're afraid it's a punitive culture. They're afraid they'll be punished. Danielle Smith, I was president of the AMA. I was at her throne speech. She actively said she wants the population of Alberta to go to 10 million. She actually wrote letters to the federal government saying we weren't getting our share of immigration. She actually said we want to boom the population. I got to tell you, these people that are coming in here are driving our economy. The idea that you'd think, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to plan for the capacity we need in our healthcare system, and we're just going to tell all these new people that are coming in here to work that you can't access services because you're new to the province. That's insane. You cannot have a healthy, booming economy if you don't have a healthy workforce. You're not going to get people to move up to Fort Mac or drive our oil and gas industry if you can't get family docs up there. If you have a serious condition and you can't get into their hospital in a meaningful time. I phone people that are at the senior levels of ACA, our New Acute Care Alberta. These are my buddies and people I know for 25 years in this system saying, who's doing it? And they're all like, nobody. And then we say that and government says we're lying and then comes out and says, oh, actually, maybe they weren't lying.
So that's Dr. Paul Parks on Real Talk near the end of January. You can find that in our podcast archives, or, of course, you can just watch it on our YouTube channel. Thanks to everybody that's subscribing to YouTube, by the way. We're inching toward 40,000 subscribers. Would love to get there by the end of February. Edna wrote into the show following our chat with Dr. Parks to talk at RyanJespersen.com. She says, by the fall of 1986, the first heart transplants were being performed in Edmonton. And my younger brother, says Edna, 21 years old at the time, was seriously ill for just about a year, for 11 months. He was on the same ward as the heart transplant patients at the University of Alberta Hospital, University Hospital. And unfortunately, due to a ravaging autoimmune disease, his major coronary arteries literally turned into irreparable mush, and he was unfortunately ineligible for heart transplant surgery. One of his last messages to me, says Edna, was, don't waste your body. You only get one. She says, I've often thought about this sobering remark, especially while at work and during workouts. She says, I was a brand new lab technologist who worked on the front lines at a small suburban hospital in the Edmonton area. My shifts, mostly evenings and nights. In those early years, I was the only tech on duty, and I had much direct patient contact. I performed the typical orders for a gamut of stat blood work, cross-matched blood and blood products for transfusions. I examined spinal and other bodily fluids. I did ECGs, arterial blood gases on numerous emergencies, inpatients, young and old. I experienced a lot, and I ran my butt off without much of a break at all. There was a lot of blood, she says, no pun intended, sweat, and sometimes tears. And I will never forget those dying in front of me and the rest of the healthcare team in the emergency department's acute casualty cubicles. Lives were saved, and some were not. While most people were treated for non-life-threatening but serious issues, others had minor ailments. Some seemed to visit the emergency department repeatedly for whatever reason. Over the years, I came to the conclusion that there are people who are dealt an unfortunate hand like my brother, while others cannot take care of themselves and also spiral into decline. There are those, of course, that abuse the healthcare system, and in my opinion, there are far too many who abuse themselves. Some abuse both themselves and the healthcare system. You asked Dr. Parks, what should we, the average citizen, do amid a health crisis? The answer I keep hearing is write a letter to your MLA or share your healthcare story, make some noise. She says, I guess that this email to your fine talk show is sharing my main story, and I hope you will read my noise. She says, to continue, what I'm suggesting reminds me of a statement made by former Premier Jim Prentice in 2015 when he attempted to point out a shared responsibility when discussing provincial finances. This time, in the context of healthcare and self-care, I guess I'm kind of saying the same thing. Look in the mirror. In addition, she says, I say polish that mirror and look again and again and again, as many times as it takes. Edna says, and ask yourself this. If you have a doctor, are you truly listening to her? Or are you lucky enough, if you are, to find a doctor, would you truly, for real, listen to their advice? Look around. How many friends and relatives do you know? Or maybe it's you who hasn't yet quit smoking or quit vaping or quit alcohol or lost weight or scoffs at or postpones regular effective exercise, who doesn't take medications as advised, who doesn't practice good oral hygiene, who forgets about sunscreen, who hasn't sought mental health counseling, who has poor sleep habits, or who hasn't been vaccinated. Are you someone who carries with you maybe one of these issues with eyes wide shut to the reality that someday your body might succumb? Maybe you believed all the while that a top-notch healthcare system would be in place to fix whatever unexpected health problem comes your way. Maybe you've just never really thought it could happen to you. She says, now I realize that some of these basic self-care practices don't directly solve today's emergency overflow crisis, especially not in the short term. She says, is this why we're not really talking about preventative medicine? She says, with no disrespect to Dr. Parks, I'm 100% certain that he and his comrades have treated many self- and system-abusing patients over the years, yet he himself could not squeeze in the preventative medicine message to any large degree. Why? She says, because there's too many mind-blowing bureaucratic points to make. She says, or I wonder if it's because just like our politicians, another important message would fall on deaf or overloaded ears. Edna says, I hear people say, mostly folks in government, that there's too much waste in healthcare, that AHS has been doing a poor job. I want to say back, please hear, how about we, each of us, does a seriously better job of taking care of ourselves? Don't waste your body. You only get one. Edna says, thanks, Jespo. I'll see you at the gym. Not from Edna. I love it. How about that?
Edna just hit me right in the head with that. I mean,
right?
I consider myself, and it's one of the reasons I don't go to the emergency room when I'm sick until it's like, not life or death, but, like I told you last time I got sick, till I was, I couldn't breathe. I consider myself a generally healthy guy, but when she was listing off those things, I haven't been to the gym in a while. I haven't been for therapy in a few months.
I felt like she was talking to me.
I haven't been eating right since Christmas. So, and you do always think that, hey, it's fine, because if something goes wrong, I've got, I live in Canada. I live in Alberta. We've got, a great healthcare system, but that's not the way it's looking right now. So that was pretty scary. That was a little slap in the face there from Edna.
Right? When she was, the mental health counseling, the getting out to work out, even when she talks about postponing it, I literally postponed today's workout earlier this morning because I got something else to do. But anyway?
The eating right, the not smoking,
right?
The drinking
Sleeping.
too much. The sleep thing. I mean,
there's small steps you can take.
It's hard when you want to be successful and you want to be driven, and you see all these things on Instagram and other places all the time saying grind all day and, I'll sleep when I'm dead. But you literally could die from not sleeping enough. And we all do it. We have a long night and we have a tough week. We burn the candle at both ends to try and be successful, get work done, get ahead for a long weekend or whatever. But, man, those few extra hours sleep a night, I mean, that's going to getting that consistently is going to put 5-10 years on your life.
Mix in glasses of water, go for walks, right? Tracy says, Edna, you have me in tears. It's true. We only get one life to live and we can do better, each and every one of us. I knew that this comment would be coming. Metamodern, no offense. I appreciate your contributions. Metamodern says, blame the individual. Good stuff. I don't pick that up from this. I've fielded in many, many years of hosting talk shows, many blame the individual takes, right? And a lot of people are like, obese people should be denied access to ERs. Smokers should be denied access to ERs, or smokers with heart disease should have to foot the bill for their own treatment, or et cetera, et cetera. Fill in the blank. Pick your poison, pick your ailment, pick your sin, along the lines of the sin taxes, cigarettes, alcohol, what have you. And these folks, they've made their bed and they should lie in it. I don't pick that up from Edna. I pick that up as just like a wake-up call from somebody who saw her own brother dying at a young age, seriously ill with, quote, coronary arteries turned into irreparable mush, ineligible for a heart transplant, telling her on his deathbed, don't waste your body, you only get one. I mean, that to me is that's a call to action from Edna.
And also, I'll just add, a lot of times when something debilitating like a disease or a health issue happens to you, it's a turning point in your life, whether you're young or old. I got lung cancer. I got diabetes from my, sometimes you just get diabetes, but sometimes it happens from, the way you take care of yourself. And that's a turning point for you to teach others. Like when you survive it, when you go through the health system, you have an amazing experience, and then you come out and you say, hey, now I'm going to take my life and I'm going to help people to avoid these health risks. Right. I'm going to go out and tell people not to smoke, to exercise more, to eat right, to do this certain, weight loss program or whatever it is. So telling somebody that, their life is meaningless and should be thrown out in the garbage because they made some poor mistakes or health decisions in their life. That seems a little reckless.
Well, and there's also kind of like it or not, and some people may not prefer the phrase I invoke here, but our society, Canadian society, is built on certain safety nets. I won't say it's built on safety nets, but it integrates certain safety nets. And thank God that we have them. For some, that means that if you're blindsided on a highway in a circumstance totally out of your control that you didn't see coming, that you will have. And here's where we get into this interesting debate as well on what's funded by the public, what's funded through lotteries and fundraisers, and then what's funded through tax dollars, essentially as administered by federal and provincial governments, right? But in the province of Alberta, for example, if you need STARS Air Ambulance, it will be there thanks to donors. If you need emergency ICU care or emergency surgery, it will be there, courtesy of Canada's healthcare system. If you need cancer surgery, now we can talk timelines, we can talk deficiencies, and we do. We talk about it a lot on this show, but you will have it. And there's not a minimum standard of how you qualify for that.
Yeah.
And some folks may not like the composition, the demographics of the ER waiting rooms right now. They make you uncomfortable. The fact of the matter is a big part of the Canadian mindset and commitment to public health care is that you're not going to be left freezing out in the cold without services because you don't have insurance or you can't afford it.
Or lifestyle choices, right? Like we're going to start gatekeeping and putting like you can only go and get care if you work out 3 times a week and eat healthy and don't smoke and don't have mental health issues and blah blah blah. That just that's dangerous road. It's one of the reasons I love Canada, because you get the best care even if people want to argue it's not the best right now. And the second thing is you don't go into debt here when you receive that care, like in the States and in other places, right?
Yeah, for sure. I love this from Goramut, who says, YOLO, Edna, like you only live once. Remember to hydrate. Goramut, by the way, I saw your note earlier in the show where you said you almost forgot to like the live stream, but then you did. Thanks to everybody that likes the episode. A small step for you,
Beauty.
But a giant leap for Real Talk. We appreciate that. Tony says, people have to take accountability to do their best to take care of themselves, whatever that is. She says, but I'm assured that no matter what, if I fall ill, I'll be taken care of.
Sure.
Which is true. Ben says staying hydrated, getting enough sleep are huge steps. Tracy D says my mom smoked for 50 years. She quit, and then 5 years later had lung cancer. She said she wished she could have quit a whole lot earlier. Who knows if it would have made a difference, but maybe. That from Tracy D. Les says he drove truck for 25 years, says that's the worst trade-off for your health. Says, remember, though, if it wasn't for truckers, most people would starve. Man, I started watching Sidebar, this new show on Netflix. What's it called? It's called like Highway Through Hell or something like this.
Oh, I
It's
watched
like
the first two.
The heavy lift
the
truckers
Canadians.
that work the Coca-Cola and like pull semis
crazy.
out of
Wild
jobs. We also got an email from Jerry Mack who wrote in, and by the way, this is the interview we're talking about is our January 22nd interview with Dr. Paul Parks. Jerry says, Jespo, I listened with great interest to your podcast interview with Dr. Paul Parks. I want to commend you both, him for speaking so frankly and forcefully, and you for hosting him and being so productive in your questioning. Jerry says, I don't listen to you that often, Ryan. Your politics don't align very well with mine, but while you clearly lean conservative, I see you as a reasonable conservative, of which we are seeing far too few these days. So thank you, Jerry. I don't know if I align with your assessment. I think I'm a little harder to pin down, but I'll never complain about being described as reasonable. He says, I do want to challenge both you and Dr. Parks on one point. Parksy has been getting a lot of attention of late during this crisis, but in fact, the crisis has been ongoing and increasing in urgency for years. Jerry's 100% right. And in fact, has been building almost slowly, like that proverbial frog in a pot of water, since pre-COVID. Healthcare professionals have been screaming from the rooftops for years. Jerry's correct. But the difference between Dr. Parks and his colleagues and the thousands of RNs and registered psychiatric nurses and LPNs and paramedics and other allied health professionals seeing this crisis firsthand is that physicians are not employees and thus are not subject to workplace discipline. These nurses and allied health professionals are all bound by an employment law doctrine called fidelity to their employers. And so speaking out publicly and on the record risks discipline, suspension, or even termination. So to protect themselves, they speak out to their unions, and then their unions or spokespersons speak out on their behalf. And this has been happening, but nobody's been paying attention. Jerry says this government's vociferous, rapidly anti-union ideology leads it and its media allies and the right-wing commentariat to discount the union's interventions and to dismiss the unions out of hand. Healthcare workers' unions are accused of being self-serving and not being representatives of their members' true experiences. So what ends up happening is the voices of healthcare professionals are never truly heard. Now it's the almighty doctors, says Jerry. No offense to Dr. Parks. He says this is a shot at the audience for their advocacy. But it's the almighty doctors speaking out. And now the sky is falling, and now it's time to take action. Well, sir, let me tell you, the sky has been falling for a long, long time, and all that's changed is who's playing the role of Chicken Little. Nurses and other healthcare professionals, meantime, find themselves playing the role of Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence's characters in Don't Look Up. With warmest regards, Jerry signs off from Grand Prairie, Alberta. I love that, Jerry, and thanks for that. Paul Parks did, of course, reference Chicken Little, which is maybe what you were touching on in his interview with us, and you can check that out. The episode title from the 22nd of January, Leaked Report, Albertans Dying, Waiting for Healthcare. It is another good opportunity for us to remind you that we are partnering with the Alberta Federation of Labor to produce a show for them. Our company, Real Talk, the parent company, or rather Relay, the parent company for Real Talk, is not involved in the editorial production of this podcast, but it will be released the first Sunday of every month. It started on February 1st, and the first Sunday of every month for the next 8 months. If you subscribe to Real Talk on podcast, or if you check out our YouTube channel, you will see fresh episodes of The Worker Agenda, which is moderated by journalist Omar Mualim and co-hosted by Gil McGowan and Corey Longo from the Alberta Federation of Labor. Now, obviously, they're going to be presenting their perspectives, and they'll be representing their public sector workers, their union members, close to 200,000 members across the province, if you can believe it. Again, this is not our editorial project, but we are producing it for the Alberta Federation of Labor, and the first Sunday of every month, you'll be receiving that, if you're a podcast subscriber, as a bonus episode, and you can also check it out on our YouTube channel. Again, you can check out, what is it, Johnny? Workeragenda.ca for more. Workeragenda.ca for more.
Yeah, or you can just go to our official Real Talk Ryan Jespersen and scroll down on
That's
our
right.
playlists.
Yeah,
and
on YouTube.
It's right there for you.
There it is, episode 1, affordability, and they're going to roll out a different theme every single month. So again, you'll hear the standard disclaimer, friends, where we talk about how the views and opinions expressed there are not necessarily the views or opinions of me or Johnny or our sponsors or our partners, but we're happy to lend our studio and our efforts to get that important message out. I think it's an important perspective, and of course they do have a significant membership. Anytime the AFL speaks, government listens, because they are representing a significant portion of the Alberta population. Cassandra with an interesting note on reasonable conservatives, as Jerry described me in an email. She says, true story about reasonable conservatives. She says, I would argue so-called conservatives that are unreasonable are not truly conservative. As a matter of fact, if you look at their ideology on a deeper level, I love that idea. You hear a lot of people talk about, and it's not just conservatives, about any party. You didn't leave the party left you. We're hearing some more progressive former Liberal Party members or Liberal voters that may be in flux right now talking about, we asked the Prime Minister about this when he was in with us a short time ago. For example, the environmental caucus within the Liberal MPs and cabinet ministers, they feel as though Mark Carney has kind of, the party has left them on their top environmental priorities. And Cassandra touching on something interesting as well. Conservatives may say, well, the party has left me. Some conservatives feel that way on the more progressive side of conservatism. But on the flip side, were the conservatives to kind of pick that spot, what they believe to be a sweet spot in posturing and positioning ahead of another election, would it mean potentially alienating or at least risking losing the support of maybe the right-wing flank or maybe the more social conservatives, and what would that look like? So interesting comment there from Cassandra. If you're particularly unreasonable, as she would assess it, using her parameters, are you even truly conservative anymore? I see people oftentimes wonder, is Danielle Smith truly a conservative? Is Doug Ford truly a conservative, or might they fit another definition?
Yeah,
we can debate it all day.
You know, I'll get flack for this, but I think our premier's reasonable. But she's playing certain cards for certain people, and that's This is the game you get into in politics, Ryan. No matter who you are, on which side, no matter where you sit in the House or on the aisle, I think everyone's playing for someone, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Good to see Stephen Fetter in our live chat. He says Canada, when we're talking about healthcare, he says Canada needs to just get rid of red tape across the board. He says my wife's colleagues from the U.S. have reached out on how hard it was to get her RN license, registered nurse license here. Once they hear all of the red tape, they're just saying, no thanks.
Yeah.
That's also something Shauna Feth touched on this with her Eye on Alberta Business from Alberta Chambers of Commerce on the interprovincial side. And in particular, we're talking about Alberta drawing talent, but you got to make it easier for either new Canadians or Canadians that are moving to Alberta to be able to transfer their accreditation over. Right? Yeah. And that's not just in healthcare. That can be in engineering and building and a ton of different applications.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about immigration and healthcare. Immigration can ease the strain of our healthcare. If you could bring surgeons in from across the world who want to live in Canada and work here, but if you have to go through, like if you have to start your accreditation all over again, I mean, I understand that there are certain we want our doctors and nurses to be trained the way they are in Canada. But I mean, if you're bringing a surgeon or someone who's been through the education system in another country, it needs to be a little quicker. We need to find better ways to get them up to snuff to be able to go into an operating room here in Canada and ease all this tension we have, all this wait times we have.
Yeah. Cassandra, by the way, follows up and she says, I do think Doug Ford is a true progressive conservative, but Danielle Smith is neither conservative nor libertarian, as she claims. Interesting. Ms. Katie says universal basic income is a conservative principle because it would eliminate big government with all the social programs, but conservatives oppose a universal basic income. Dwayne says the UCP is not a conservative government. Former conservative politicians in Alberta have said so. Interesting. Tracy says Alberta has some of the highest occupational licensing standards, but as consumers, we like it. And I do agree. Like, you want to make sure that the bar is high. If you're talking about bringing in engineers from elsewhere in the world and they're going to be designing bridges or office towers, we want to have confidence. If they're going to be heart surgeons or neurosurgeons or transplant surgeons, we want to make sure that they are the best in the world, that they meet our when I say minimum standard, I say a high and ambitious minimum standard. But the red tape, I think that Steve's referring to, is something that we need to talk about for sure. Dwayne says immigration is not the problem. Cuts to public health in Alberta by Ralph Klein and the UCP are making things worse. And I love this one from, is it JJ Needs a Nap? Who, I think, do we all know someone like this in our lives? JJ Needs a Nap says, my aunt has smoked. I shouldn't laugh. If you're 13 and listening to this, anytime someone puts a cigarette in your hands, snap it. Snap it in half.
Please.
Snap it in half.
From two guys who previously smoked.
And would never smoke. Never smoke.
Never effing touch.
Never do it.
It's so funny when you get old.
You become the people that were old in your life.
You want to be smarter when you're young, but the thing with life is you don't learn until you make mistakes, and then you grow old, you get 100%. The wisdom, and then you try to pass it down. But then when you do it, kids are like, I don't want to listen to this old effing guy.
I know.
I'll do what I want. But here's one thing. Do not ever start smoking.
Never.
Do not do it. It is the worst.
It's the worst.
And when it gets a hold on you, and then you go through the whole transformation where you love it, you're having the grass, and then you hate it because you can't breathe in the morning, you're hacking up lungs.
And you're spending all your money.
And then you got to use vaping.
And you stink.
Or dingers or other things to get off it. And the whole thing is just the worst. Don't ever touch it.
Don't ever touch it. With apologies to those members of our audience who do smoke and quite enjoy it.
Yeah. If you want to smoke, enjoy a cigar. Do not inhale it. There you go.
JJ Needs a Nap says, my aunt has smoked since she was 13. She's now 71, and she is a tiny little pistol. JJ says it's like her body was born to kick ass.
And he
says she never gets sick, and anyone who says you should quit smoking gets a prompt F you.
Yeah.
That's from JJ Needs a Nap. I'm not going to lie. I kind of want to party with your aunt.
Listen, there's always going to be these outliers. We always hear about it. My dad woke up every morning, ate 2 eggs and bacon, had a glass of whiskey every lunch, and smoked 2 packs of cigarettes. He lived to 95. Yeah, he's an outlier. He's some kind of superhuman. The majority of people are going to have health issues. They're going to take 20 years off their
For
life.
sure. JJ goes on, by the way, and follows up and says, oh, yeah, guys, for sure, I'm with you. Don't smoke. My aunt would say the same thing, but still, she's just a pistol. I love it. I can picture her.
Yeah, and she squats 250 and...
Amazing. A lot of you are sharing we're not here to pile on smokers. That's not my goal, of course. Maybe this will be a bit of a wake-up call for you. Maybe we love you guys. We want you to be around forever. I want you to keep, what are smokes? I think smokes now are literally they're 22, 23. I think they're
they're
$20.
like $58 a pack.
Yeah, whatever they are, though.
Compared
they're
to
a lot.
Compared to what,
Pack-a-day smokers
under
are spending
$10 when we were younger, $10, you know,
$600-700 a month on smokes.
It's
if you're a pack-a-day,
crazy.
It's wild
It's
if
wild.
you think about it.
Can I throw this in though? And people are still. They're dying off, but people are still kind of making it sexy. Like John Cougar Mellencamp just announced he's going back on tour. He's like 75.
Did you see his
something.
photo?
So he puts up a reel the other day. He's like getting back into shape. Like obviously he has someone running Instagram and all his socials because he's an older guy and he's never had it. But now he's going back on tour, right? Crazy. He's going to be doing 2.5 hour sets, he says. So he's like, how the heck am I going to be able to do this? So he's on the treadmill and he turns around and says, getting back into, and he's smoking a cigarette.
On the treadmill.
While he's on the treadmill, Rye, I was like, oh, I was laughing my ass off. But he's a rock star. He's still kind of making it sexy, right? Which it's not sexy. Smoking is not sexy. It may be for, a few minutes when you're in your teens and your early 20s, and then all of a sudden you're going to realize when you wake up one morning and start hacking up all that brown stuff that, oh, wait a minute. Everyone was right.
Yeah. I'm
What are you
I'm
trying to show him?
well,
There he is. Yeah.
But I don't think this is his real. No, it can't be real. It's not even spelled right. I've been looking for John Cougar Mellencamp on Instagram to show you, and you know what I've discovered that has nothing to do with anything, but is so great. I've just found someone who has kind of a parody account, and check this out. This is a family. Now, their Instagram only has 234 followers, and they only have 2 posts.
Just hit
but
this.
They have a 1962 Gem camper. Check this out. Have you ever heard a cooler name for a camper, for a trailer?
Wow.
John Cougar Mellencamper.
Yeah, that's baller.
No, I just, yeah, okay.
Hit your Slack right now.
I will.
In Tuesday, and there's him on the treadmill.
Yeah, and did you see, by the
just
way,
a rock star on a treadmill?
did you see
smoking
that
a
his
cig.
daughter called him out for it?
Yeah, here it is.
So here he is, John Cougar Mellencamp,
Look at
getting in shape for the Dancing Words, the greatest hit tour, wondering who's joining us.
with a dart
And he's got a dart burning inside the house
inside.
on his treadmill. You know what? I mean,
But guy's been smoking what? Probably 50
Look at
plus
all these
years.
replies.
So what's the difference?
this lady
he's a
says,
rock star.
Kay Melamed says, this is the most John Mellencamp thing ever, and we are all here for it. I saw this earlier, and I did see that his daughter commented on this and was like, Dad, she didn't love it.
Of course.
Yeah. Tampa J says, better to smoke and run than to not run at all and just smoke. Says, I'm buying my tickets. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, a lot of people, and there's nothing funny about this, obviously. A lot of people are sharing their stories. JGA says, I lost my dad at 59 to lung cancer as a direct result of his smoking. I'd give anything for him to still be here. Says smoking isn't glamorous or funny. It's deadly. It's the number 1 cause of preventable deaths. Please don't start smoking. And if you already smoke, please make a plan to stop. You and your loved ones will be so proud.
Yeah. And I know we're joking about this here and saying rock stars, there's certain of them that have just lived that life. Who knows if they're aliens or what, they're still alive. But man, if you've ever seen someone go through cancer and go into hospice and have the life sucked out of them. Like, this is not funny at all. Like, do not smoke. And there's those people, like, remember George Burns?
Oh, man.
Lived to like, what,
Betty Davis?
90 something, smoked cigars every day. He lamented and joked, actually, about how, you know, his doctor died before he did. And he continued to smoke like 13, 15 cigars a day. But, man, cancer is the worst thing. And even when, you know, we find cures for cancer, it won't be a reason to, like, go ahead and smoke. Like, smoking it's one of the worst things you can do, man. It sucks the life from you. It's horrible.
It's wild. I saw a real talker here in our live chat talking about how they look back on their family photos from certain eras, and they're like, there's just ashtrays everywhere.
Yeah.
And I often think the same. It's interesting when you talk about the trends with like kids these days, and just kind of the young adults coming up and how they treat alcohol or how they view alcohol. And I don't think that every young adult these days is sober or straight edge, like we used to say.
No, but they're definitely...
I do think that they're like they're having gummies, they're vaping, they're doing whatever else.
Sure.
There's like the designer drugs and everything else. But I do think that like when we look back, I think of like pictures from my high school grad or the university years or camping in our 20s, and it's just like booze everywhere. And I just don't think it's going to be the same. I don't think it's the same culture. Like I just remember, and maybe I'm wrong, we'll see. My little guy's 10 right now. You know, hopefully we've got a few years of runway at least before this is an issue. We're going to have to start tween proofing our home when it comes to in real life, like real talk, guys, when it comes to access to cigars. I don't think 13-year-olds are smoking cigars, but access to cannabis, access to alcohol, access to all these types of things. Like you got to think about it. You got to have a plan.
Sure.
But I just don't know. And real talkers, let us know. Honestly, if you hear, I know there's gonna be a lot of parents that are hearing this later. Grandparents, I'd love to hear from you. High school teachers, to talk at RyanJespersen.com. What do you see in your world? Like, what are your kids into? Our teens, like for us, it was like if you could get a 6-pack of like Labatt Wildcat Strong, or a 6-pack of like AGD or a 6-pack, like whatever, right? Like just like the classic, like back in the days, Molson Canadian, like whatever you could get your hands on. Black Ice. If you could get 6 of those, right? That was a big deal. And I just don't know that they're the same these days. And if I know anything about this audience, they'll let us know.
And it's a good thing. And I do agree with you, though. Let's not say like kids are straight edge or healthy, because they are. They're vaping. They're taking, they're taking weed gummies.
Yeah.
But I think we've just noticed a trend where like, people will call them soft or whatever, but man, I wish I was more in tune with my mental health when I was younger. We just talked about this the other day, how I'm starting to get like, after a night of partying or having one too many drinks, I'm getting the Sunday scaries now. I never used to have this. And I think maybe I did have it before. I just wasn't in tune with it. Like we used to call it, lying in bed all day on a Sunday and eating, fast food. It was like, I'm recovering from my hangover. Maybe I was just depressed because I just had this a few weeks ago where I had a Sunday where I was like anxious and I had like impending doom and fear. And I was like, what is going on? I don't get the Sunday scaries. And I told you, a friend of mine was like, John, you're experiencing it right now and you're denying it, right? Yeah. But I think kids know about this more these days. They also know about the health impacts. And the third thing is, I'll also just say like the cost of like a night going out to a nightclub for us were a lot lower than they are for kids today. Like we would go out there, be like $2 drafts and $5 highballs. And I remember, God, only in Alberta, 25 cent
draft.
But now you go out, like you told me the other day, you went out a cocktail, it's $27. I won't say where it was because it's expensive everywhere, but
Well, I took my son and 2 of his buddies, shout out Brody, Nixon, and Wyatt. I took them to the Oilers skills competition on the weekend.
Oh, nice.
And
Sunday.
Yeah, on Sunday, after a late Saturday night following the Real Talk Pond Hockey Classic. Guys, I don't know if I'm calling myself a hero. I don't know if I'm going to call myself a hero, but I will say I was in Rogers Place.
The lights.
Twice on Saturday night and Sunday morning. Quite a different vibe on the Sunday morning than on the Saturday night. But I decided to treat myself to a Caesar.
Yeah.
And
Hair of the dog.
I thought I'm just going to have one. I'm going to have one. So then I make it a double.
Yeah.
$34 for a double Caesar before tax and tip. $34. What?
Yeah. And I understand, like, it's the cost of, like, the ingredients and this and that, but, like,
Nice try.
Booze is like a 400% markup.
Oh,
and
minimum.
I understand the person making it needs to get their wage, and then you got to pay for but it's still altogether. It's like $14, if that, and you're paying an extra 20 on top. It's
insane. It's totally insane. And it's greedy as hell, by the way.
Crazy.
I love this from Laura. Laura in our live chat shouts out Big Bear when we're referencing everything that, you know, of our vintage. I'm a 77 born. I don't know about you guys, but do you remember Big Bear? I'm showing my screen right now. I didn't know that Big Bear, which, by the way, is not beer, never was beer.
I remember this thing.
It's malt liquor. If you watch that movie Kids, remember Telly in Kids? They were crushing Big Bear all the time. So Laura has taken me back 30 years. I didn't know that Big Bear in those big 40-ounce bottles was discontinued in 2013. It says now that the bottles are highly coveted for collectors. But I love this. At the bottom, this is at brewgene.com. Tasting notes. It says nobody has left any public tasting notes yet for Big Bear. Save your time.
I wouldn't think so.
The gnarliest beverage.
It's crazy. And this is another thing relating to, like, you know, the younger generation these days. We make fun of them for, like, TikToking and spending their time, like, being creative online and stuff. You know what we did? We used to duct tape Big Bears to our hands.
Duct tape? Yeah. Why?
Because that meant you had to finish them both.
Oh,
you know what
gosh.
I mean? Like, you couldn't take, like, that's what we used to do in our spare time. So I think the kids are all right.
I'm worried. Yeah, I think the kids are all right. I'm worried we're giving them ideas. This is great, by the way. Follow up from Laura when I talk about sort of tween-proofing our house. She says, I never had to hide or lock up anything. She says, I was honest. She says with her, I'm assuming you're talking about your daughter, says I was honest with her. When they turn 16, they're able to try something if they like. She says, I can count on my hands how many times she has drank, and she's 20 now. So that from Laura, which I think is great.
Yeah, I think it's the old adage as well, Ryan. Like I think you trust your kids. They're smart boys. If you train them right. Like, if you lock a liquor cabinet, it's the old thing. They're going to find the key. They're going to crack it out. Like, you try and deny them something, you know, but if you teach them about it, you know what I mean? And educate them on, like, alcohol, and also how, like, it's not the best thing, and and your experience with it. I think that right there is a lock and key, like, metaphorically, right? Because I always say, you put something on a high shelf, you put the cookie jar on top of the fridge, they're going to get a ladder, right?
Ms. KD says they did exactly what you're describing at rugby tournaments. Lauren says, Johnny, even Red Green didn't think about duct taping 40s to his hands. And how about this from Hollis? This is amazing. Hollis says, Edward 40 hands. Is that what you called it? Edward 40 hands?
Bro, we got a couple Big Bear duct tapers in the chat.
Oh my gosh. Me no mad if me have two Big Bears and tape. That from Hollis.
We're still going back to that audio.
Yeah. Just Joe says, kids are geeks today compared to how rotten my generation was. And I will take that as a compliment toward today's kids.
We
say
nerds.
that this show is hosted by Geeks and Nerds, presented for Geeks and Nerds.
Love them. They're designing EVs.
Wear that as a badge of honor.
They're making apps that make our lives better. Love the nerds.
Erin popped in to say, kids. Oh my gosh. She says, that movie changed my life. She says, so awful. I think about it all the time. Yeah. That movie, if you haven't seen the movie Kids, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a coming of age.
Well,
but
it's like a cult phenomenon.
We
used to watch that when we were kids.
Grappling with the most serious stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Know what you're getting into. Substance use, sexual assault. Like, it's a really powerful film. And maybe we'll end on this in how you have all taught your kids. Ms. KD says, this is how I taught my kid. Earmuffs, kids, in all caps. Don't touch my fucking booze, she says. I don't know if that works.
You don't touch
it.
Mama's medicine.
You don't touch it. And if you do touch it, you better not refill it with water unless you're right?
Stop giving.
That's the biggest tragedy. We're obviously having some fun here. The show's gone longer than expected. We will not apologize, and we love every single one of you that stuck around till the end. I hope this reiterates. We're here to have fun. We're here to talk things out. We're here to give you a voice, and that includes your emails to talk@ryanjespersen.com. So shout out to Jerry and Edna for your thoughts on the Paul Parks interview. Keep them coming, friends. Tell your friends about the show. Like the episode. Subscribe wherever you find us, and we will see you right back here in about 22 hours with more Real Talk. Thanks for everything you do to keep the show going, to keep it growing. We're on this journey together, and we appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jespersen, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lauren Sterlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton, member emerita Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjespersen.com.